Have you ever stared at your reflection in the mirror and felt uneasy? Like the person staring back at you wasn't entirely you? It sounds ridiculous until it happens. One winter night, I learned that mirrors are more than just glass. They might show more than we're meant to see. This story isn't made up. It's something I'll never forget because it happened to me. It was a freezing January night, and I was staying at my cousin's cabin in Vermont. The cabin was cozy but old, with creaky floorboards and drafty windows. Most of the furniture seemed like it hadn't been touched in decades. What stood out most was the antique mirror in the hallway, a tall, ornate thing with an intricately carved wooden frame. The first time I walked past it, I felt strange. It was subtle, like my reflection lingered just a moment too long after I'd moved. I laughed it off, blaming my exhaustion. But as the night wore on, the feeling grew stronger. Every time I glanced at the mirror, I couldn't shake the sense that something was slightly off. Have you ever had the feeling that you're being watched, even when you're completely alone? The mirror's secrets. Around midnight, I decided to head to bed. The hallway was dimly lit by a single bulb, casting long shadows on the walls. As I passed the mirror, I stopped. My reflection seemed darker, almost like the hallway behind me was pitch black, even though the light was on. Curiosity got the best of me. I leaned closer, staring into the mirror, trying to see if there was a smudge or flaw in the glass. That's when I noticed it. My reflection wasn't copying me. My head tilted slightly, but the reflection stayed still. My chest tightened as a wave of cold air swept through the hallway. Before I could step back, the reflection's head began to tilt slowly, matching my earlier movement, but in reverse. My heart was pounding, but I couldn't look away. And then it smiled, a slow, eerie grin that spread across its face. I wasn't smiling. What would you do if your reflection smiled at you, but you didn't? The terrifying truth. I stumbled back, nearly tripping over my own feet. The light above me flickered, and for a moment, the hallway plunged into darkness. When the light came back on, the reflection was gone. The mirror showed nothing, just an empty hallway, as if I wasn't standing there at all. I panicked and ran to my cousin's room, waking him up. He groggily asked what was wrong, but when I told him about the mirror, his face went pale. He admitted he'd always avoided that hallway at night, saying there were stories about the mirror. According to local legend, it belonged to a widow who claimed the mirror was a gateway, a portal for something that shouldn't exist. Determined to prove it to him, I dragged my cousin to the hallway. But the mirror was different. The wood looked cracked, and the glass was foggy. We both stared at it. And then it happened again. Our reflections moved. This time, they both turned their heads at the same time to look directly at us. We smashed the mirror that night, but the feeling hasn't left me. Every time I see my reflection, I wonder, what if it's still watching? Did that story make you second-guess your own reflection? If you're craving more unsettling tales like this, connect with us for more videos that will keep you on the edge of your seat.